fair explanation. Exactly. With that, over to you. Please do a small two-line overview or introduction of yourself, and then.
Hi, good afternoon. So I'm Namrata, and I'm the co-founder of Color Ashram Foundation. Color Ashram Foundation is a training academy for natural color application. So we have a background of my co-founder's work of 20 years, and he is a pioneer to make natural dyeing industrial. You know, if anybody of you know about what's natural dyeing, not Siddharth, okay? Yeah.
It's basically using natural material like flowers, leaves,
Exactly.
and all mud for that matter.
Yeah.
Maybe some form of mud, color, whatever.
Exactly. So if plants, mud and whatever could be used for natural colors, what is the color that you are wearing?
Pink.
Anybody?
Pink.
Yeah. And where does it come from?
This is probably a synthetic dye.
Synthetic. Okay. And where does that come from?
Some chemical.
Where does that come from? Excellent. Petrochemical. The source is petrochemical. And I'll do a simple thing with you which I do with children as well. I teach a lot of children as well. And so where is petroleum found?
Under the ground.
Very, very deep. Let's add very, very, very deep under the ground. It has to be really brought up, you know. Is there any petroleum river that we find on the surface of the planet? Nothing. So nature, Mother Nature never designed petroleum to be outside ever, and it was kept so deep that nobody should touch it. And then we are naughty kids. We did go and touch it and bring it out, and that's the problem. Petroleum is not supposed to be on the surface. No living organism on this planet can digest it, can work with it. And then we are also mutating it to plastics and changing the form and making so many things that even more, they are so complex chemicals that we are making, it's not biodegradable. That is the whole problem. I mean, one is toxicity. If anybody drinks it, they'll surely die. It's not poison, it's toxic. There is a difference between poison and toxic, right? Toxicity is one issue, but the second issue is also biodegradability. So these are the two issues which make any petrochemical product very harmful. And to add to all of this, we have fast fashion today, right? We don't have fashion, we don't have clothing, we have fast fashion, which means there are tons and tons of clothes being made which we don't need. If we stop making clothes right now, we could actually, for generations, we will not need to make any clothes. There are so many clothes. And most brands, they make huge clothes because they have so many stores around the world. And then what do they do with the collection? Shipping from here to there is very expensive. They will just burn their stock. And or it goes to countries like Africa and all those places, and maybe to India as well. Like so many things happen. I mean, these are some very chilling facts I want to tell you, not to scare you, but to have your curiosity awakened to understand what is happening here. Okay. So first thing, yeah, all of this. Second thing is that where are the dyeing industries in the world? Who can tell me? Which countries are usually where dyeing industries are there? So which means I'm saying there are dyeing industries are not there in many countries. Southeast Asia, yeah. Not there in US so much, not there in Europe. Europe, very few of them. Not there in Australia, Canada, anywhere. Why? Because it's extremely dirty industry. Very, very, very dirty. All the people, I mean, we have presented our natural colors in the textile fair in Milan last year. This year we had gone to London, and there's a thing called Future Fabric Expo, which is talking about sustainable things which are coming in textiles. We presented there in all of these places, and they have so many panel discussions, and we're listening to them. They are not making any of these clothes that they wear. Everything is coming from Bangladesh, India, and all those people, and no representative from there is sitting on the dais, first of all. Sorry, not to mean anything to your country, I don't know where you're from, but yeah, I'm just stating the facts. That and all the rules, like Europe is now going to passing the rule that you cannot throw anything in the landfill. You cannot throw a garment in the landfill. You have to repair, reuse or whatever, right? That law is being passed. So they are now having robots who will repair a button or a hole or whatever. I mean, They still want to do everything mechanically, which is fine. I mean, I don't think that we can shy away from technology now at this point. We're not going to go back to hand anything. But the thing is that the population, the products and all that compared to that, what we have in India and what the production centers have in India, their production is happening in Dhaka, for example. In Dhaka, a lot of wastage is happening. Who is talking about that? No one. So, in the sense that, okay, there are countries who are trying to keep their country clean, but by them having the production in countries like these and not having a regulation on all of these things in these places is a big problem. I'm not saying that this is a complete, this thing, that there are people who follow ethical rules and fair trade. Certifications like these are being followed, especially after a very dirty, massive incident in Dhaka where a factory collapsed. It was a sweatshop, big one, and it was called Rana Plaza. And then the fashion revolution happened, right? And everybody started asking, who makes my clothes? Yeah. But I am here to talk about what is there in your colors and your clothing, and that's what I will start. Yeah, you can keep clicking because then why I'm talking about this, no, keep going. Why I'm talking about this is because textile industry cannot work with dirty water. It needs our drinking water to work with. Okay? And every cotton t-shirt in its lifetime, it pollutes 2,500 liters of drinking water. I'm not saying use, I'm saying pollute, because after textile industry uses it, nobody can use it. Yeah. I mean, that's what our mascot, our tagline is, that, for us, Natural Line is a solution to water pollution. It's not just the craft or the beauty of dyes, but also because water is very, very valuable. Yeah, you can go to the next one. Yeah, what makes water very easily pollutable is because it's a universal solvent, and it is a major ingredient of the textile industries. That's why also one of the, I would call it greenwashing, but also it's justified when people talk about eco-friendly textiles today. They are also talking about digital printing and sublimation printing and all these things, because they say they don't use water in the process. They're still chemical, but the water is such a big thing, so that's why they are saying that. Yeah, let's go to the next. Yeah. This is the pollution level, and so the pollution basically comes from two areas, if I'm oversimplifying it. One is the petrochemical, all the dye components. Guess how many chemicals make the textile industry function as it is? Take a guess, take a number, pick a number. How many chemicals are used in the textile industry? Anybody? Okay, anybody else? 51, 52, no?
2,000.
8,000 to 12,000. Without this, industry will fall. We need 8,000 to 12,000 chemicals in the industry. Okay? Yeah. So one was this petrochemical problem, and then also very heavy metal like chromium, arsenic, all these things, they are also very big part of the thing. This is from China, and one of the factories in China. Yeah. This is very important because so what is our pollution department doing? They are also doing something, right? So all the textile big industries, the biggest headache is pollution department, because it comes and says you can't throw water, whatever. Small unorganized sector, which is handicraft sector, they are the worst because nobody is telling them. Pollution department doesn't have time to go to a local dyer and ask what are you polluting. Big industries who are doing massive productions, they are being questioned. Good reason, because they use a lot of water. But what they do many times, so there were 2-3 ways that they have devised to counter this pollution, So when water comes out, it's colored, which was a major thing. I don't know if you heard about Blue River, the jeans production, all of that. They were, because colored water causes a lot of problem of its own. What they started doing was adding a chemical to make it transparent and then releasing it into the system. They have systems that run in the daytime to show that they are cleaning it, and at the night they will release it to the river. But the worst criminal thing done is this, that they reverse bore water into underground. which means underground water is what? It is our reserve for emergency. I'm getting goosebumps when I'm saying this. It is a water that is falling and the ground is filtering it. Our ground is a very nice filter and it's keeping that clean groundwater for us in case when we run out, we can take it out, you know, by wells and all of those things. This is reverse boring. In Ahmedabad, I worked for some time in Ahmedabad. People, when they dig water, they get colored water. So they have to go very far away from industries to get plain drinking water. I'm talking about workers who have to still take water from this thing. So this is really, yeah, this is about the optical quality of water, which, of course, if the colored water is going in the river, this is a very, very big problem. It inhibits everything, basically. Yeah, yeah. This is something we can play actually. So, okay. Never mind, we can move to the next slide. This is a film on YouTube, by the way, True Blues. It is made by us, so we have a filmmaker who works with us, and we made this film on a YouTube channel. It's available. Our YouTube channel is called Color Ashram, COLOR. And this film has been requested and taken by many organizations in Europe, and they have screened it at the sustainability events as well. It's a really nice film. It's called True Blues by Color Ashram, if you can watch it. Yeah, and color. So color is one of the major influencing factors, but it's also the reason why we have a lot of pollution in the rivers, and of course, before Industrial Revolution, we were making clothes only with natural colors. It's just after, so the first thing with which the industrial dye was discovered was coal tar. It happened in Germany. First scientist to discover, and then it followed across and all of that. And Germany is also the first country to start banning chemicals after chemicals in the dyes. So today, if you want to make textiles, you cannot use azo dyes. There are many classes of dyes. Just like we have, for example, if you go and buy cotton, you will get a cotton for 20 rupees a meter, and then you will get it for 200 and 2000 per meter, right? There are degrees. Similarly, in dyes, you have degrees of, dyes. You can buy a cheap one, which is extremely toxic, which is allowed in countries like India, South Asian countries, but you cannot export these clothes now to European countries or American countries. Those are called azo-free dyes. Azo compound has been determined cancerous, so it's not allowed to be used on any export clothing. That is something in any textile sustainability fair they'll keep saying that we are cleaning water, and zero liquid discharge is a very big thing these days, which means that in South India, which is the hub of textile industry, there is a place called Tirupur. Has anybody heard about it? That's the place where maximum brand work is happening. And there's a river there called Noel. And that river once, a few years back, all the fishes died in that river. And then all the units were made to shut down, and there was a huge problem. And then they started using the word, government asked everybody to start doing ZLD, zero liquid discharge. So they are incinerating or doing whatever, but you can't, give your liquid in the river. But that's South India. This rule has not happened in West India, North India. It's only happened in some places where the damage was so much. I think it's pretty much what the earlier film was saying, that unless the damage is very huge, there's no steps taken. So that's one. This is also a film which we have on our YouTube channel. So while we show you the pollution problem and the problem, we also talk about the solution to it. And that's what this is. So yeah, so the solution, that's in the film, that we could actually do natural dyed clothing. This is natural dyed clothing that I'm wearing, and I wear natural dyed clothing every day of my life. I've been doing this for 10 years now, except some of my sports jacket or winter wear, everything else is natural dye. So what I'm trying to say is that it's possible to wear it, it's possible to machine dye it. We are doing that for a lot of brands. But we need consumers to be aware so that the big brands who actually make tons of clothes, they will actually, start using natural dyes. Natural dyes is a pain to use for them right now because it's got its own limitations. Like we have in Pantone shade card, which is a shade card of textile colors. There are 1 lakh shades and more maybe. In this we have very limited shades. But it is only because very few people are using natural dyes right now. Once, like people in this room, if you want to decide if you want to use natural colors and out of you know, someone starts working. Like this, if many people are working on a problem, there will be 100 solutions, there will be 100 ways to apply it. So it's not, it is applicable, it is doable, is what I want to say. As Color Ashram person who's been doing this for 10 years, my partner is doing for 20 years, we have dyed every kind of textile, every kind of product except polyester. And it is possible to wash and wear. I machine wash my clothes, I don't do hand washing because I'm working. So everything is possible is what I'm trying to say. But there are some qualities of natural dyed clothing, and that's what I mentioned here. That, can you just go back to the slide? That if you want to use it, you have to care a little bit. You can't be using very bleach detergents like Surf Excel and all those things. You have to use liquid detergents. You can also, these clothes age like us. Anything natural, by rule it is that it will change. If it doesn't change, it is only plastic. So the clothes will become a little lighter. This might be a little darker when I wore it like 2 years back, and it will become lighter. But when it becomes light, you can always re-dye, you know. The thing that you want to get cheap clothing, you are endorsing very toxic clothing, number one. Number two, if you want a thing that will not change at all in your wardrobe, it will not change when it goes to the soil. The logic is very clear. You want things that will change and degrade. That's the idea. Yeah. The bigger problem is that even if we have natural dyes to be started to use, 70% of our clothing today is polyester and is increasing more and more. And on that, there's no point of using natural dyes, and you can't use because that's plastic, and these are all water-based colors what I'm talking about. That is a very big problem, and natural dyes can also be done with toxic metals. So if you ever go to a natural dye shop or whatever, you should ask or try to find out what is the fixers that they are using. Dyes could be with plants, the fixer could be absolutely toxic metal and chemical. Just as an awareness that if anybody says I'm doing natural dye clothing, may not be completely easy. Yeah, and of course it is not meant to be a solution for fast fashion. We have to consume less for sure. I mean, all of you guys are great because you made an effort to come to a film festival and an alternative film festival. So I know that you're already aware of all of these things, but maybe we can take these things to other people too. These are some of this is madder root, which gives pink and shades of red. This is pomegranate peel, which gives yellow color. You know, the peel of the pomegranate. Flame of forest, which gives orange color. And this is our website and all, and you can just look up Color Ashram and you will find us. Yeah, I think that's the last one, or this one. We also do workshops, training. This is BCC. We did a natural color festival here last year. It was the most magical festival. I've done 2 other places. I really miss doing it here. This was, at the festival. So anybody who wants to learn just for an experience for yourself or for a career, you're most welcome to come to Color Ashram. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. After that, we have Simantini.
Yes.
Who's going to help us talk about how does clothing affect. Yes. Just start slideshow. Call out when you need.
Yes. So Namrata did speak about how fast fashion and the toxic dyes affecting our environment. Today I'll be talking about animal derived products in fashion industry and how it is actually affecting our environment. Yeah. So before we start, next slide. So there are 2 options. As a consumer, there's a scenario where you have to choose between, you have to buy a bag and you have to choose between a PU leather bag and a bag made of animal skin. So which one you have to choose, right? So what might be your options? Just remember those options. And
what do you think is more
sustainable?
And keep that in your mind and be revisiting your choices,
Yeah.
see if you change your mind at all. So,
And if you have like a third option, either one, and then you want a third option, keep that also in mind, and we'll revisit that third option and see what the other options are. Yeah. Okay. Going to the next slide. Yeah. Just to materials are leather, wool, silk, fur, down, cashmere, Artica wool, crocodile skin. So there are many like that, right? And these are often perceived as natural and sustainable. And some of the products like some of the high fashion luxury industry brands also use crocodile skin and cashmere and down in their products and make it more aspirational, and that's what's happening. Next. But what is the reality, right? So while we go through it, we'll understand this better. Yeah, just before we dive into it, I just want to introduce our organization. Our organization is called Consumer for Sustainability. It's a consumer protective initiative. So we mainly focus our efforts on creating awareness of animal agriculture and their detrimental effects on our planet and our health, and through advocacy we try to do, bring in this kind of awareness. We do also engage with institutions as well. We also aspire to build a consumer, like Namrata did say how consumer plays a role in bringing any system, right? So we're trying to build this community, and that's what we are trying to do. Yeah. So why is our focus mainly on animal agriculture or farming, right? So isn't this a Western problem? Is it like an Indian problem? Because we're not a major meat-eating country, right? Like it's mostly happens in the West, but still we are top dairy consuming country, and we are second largest exporter in eggs, and third in eating goat meat, and we are also second largest housing sheep population compared to globally. So when we look at the scale, India is not far behind. So animal agriculture, where Westerns are speaking about like animal related environmental issues, it's also our issue that we need to look into our own home, right? So let's dig into what are the environmental related effects of animal agriculture, right? So we know
This was given as a topic to an intern. Water pollution was a topic, and she chose to work with indigo and black-based dye. And this is about bioamplification. So this is a whole chain. I'll not explain the process, but this is what she tried to do here. It's a beautiful shirt which is wearable, but there's also a story behind it, and also it's made with natural colors. And this also was done by another student. These are all natural colors. What I want to show you is that they can be beautiful and stylish. Nobody's asking not for you to not look good in the clothes. And and here behind me is this is our tagline: natural dyeing made easy. This was the jacket I was wearing in Milan throughout the thing, and people were always looking and they love the things and stuff. We are working. We are doing some dyeing for Victoria's Secrets, for Decathlon. Some dyes are going there, sampling is going on. But what happens in these things is that the big companies have to move towards natural colors, because the future of color is not petroleum-based dyes. We're going to run out of it eventually. But there was a whole team that did 2 years of sampling in Decathlon, and then that team left the whole, was fired or whatever, or something happened, they left, so that whole project is now shelved. It went so far and this way.
Right.
But everybody top there is looking for natural solutions, and it is a thing which is going to come up soon. All of us can actually find natural dye brands and endorse them, because they need a lot of love and encouragement from you guys to be able to sustain and be prosper.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, both of you.
Anybody has any difficult questions?
I actually have a question.
Please.
I was just thinking, connecting back to the movie that we saw.
Yeah.
Have you physically expanded in other industries, right? Like at CFL, we also making movies, media professional, right? And one of the things I saw were people switching from plastic bags in supermarkets to now cloth bags, but I also saw that they were dyed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that something that you consider?
Yeah, yeah.
possibly?
Kali, wood staining, we make for wall mural, and we make for textiles. We're already making those, yeah. Any other please? Yes.
So, definitely natural banners are a great idea, but can it scale? So,
Yes,
I
it
think the point is
Very, very good question. And most brands also ask this question that then what will happen? We will wipe off our natural resources and all of that. But no, first of all, it is not meant to substitute to work for fast fashion. The number of clothes we make, no,
so
not for
less
that.
consumerism.
Less
definitely.
consumerism, it can, yeah, because it is made from waste. So all the flowers, things that are falling, they can all give colors. If you take your compost, kitchen compost, and just boil it and put a fabric inside, you will definitely get a color out of it. So this is all waste of nature that can be used, and there are many solutions, especially the ones that we are using. We are not doing the traditional process of boiling materials and all of that. We have a patented process of a different technology that does not use so much of resources in that quantity. So there's a lot of innovation that can be done actually. And also, we are making now colors with algae, microorganisms. We're just doing research on that. Yeah.
Basically, conscious consumers need to meet natural lights.
Yeah. Sorry, you were saying something.
No, so essentially, is there enough research also done on what sort of things can be made, what sort of waste can convert into
Yes,
natural
on
dyes?
a
Or
natural
are
dye
there any-
level,
Okay.
lot of research is going on, but there is no innovation happening. The thing is that everything is very theoretical and application is not happening. That's the biggest problem. So this industry, I think, is as a research topic, as a innovation solution, is really booming with a lot of conferences and all those things. But the textile industry, the B2B, the big industries, their natural dye is not existing yet.
Right.
The economy of the industry has to be, justified for it to become a solution, and that will only happen when major industries, even if one industry starts using it, everybody will start following. Who will be the first one to bell the cat? We don't know yet. Any one major industry.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Yes.
So, what are the challenges?
Challenges is mindset, number one, because in an industry when it goes, one boss decided I want to go natural, but then his workers won't follow, and they'll say in the lab that oh, this is not working, this is a problem, we can't work, because they don't want to change the set pattern of dyeing, what they're using right now. It still requires a little mindfulness, it still requires a little openness. You will never get a perfect shade from one batch to another batch because this is natural dye. There is no way, even if you keep every parameter different, between a difference of 4-5 hours or some water change, some pH change in the water, it can be a little different shade. The textile industry and all the students of textile industry are not our students at all, because they are so hardwired to think, I want that shade of yellow and I want this to match with this, that you can't demand and command. You have to be open to see and embrace shade variation, to see and embrace not so much saturated shades, all of that. So those are some things that are big change. Second biggest thing which all companies fear is asking the consumer to wash with care. The biggest problem is like, how will they wash it? Like, to teach a simple thing that wash with care for a company is a huge expense. Levi's had done a range of shirts with us, and then Europe recession happened, like I'm talking about years back. Then they shelved the whole project. And then I also went to more companies, and they all were looking for a sustainable solution 10 years back also. But what they were all saying in an indirect way was, who is going to spend on the educating of the customer? So they are all waiting. Government will never do it unless there is like the river dies and all of this happens. Companies will not do it on their own money. Educating the customer is a very, very big expense. For them, a fresh round of advertising is a very big cost. Third major thing, if I have a shop full of chemical dyed clothes and then I have a range of natural dyed clothes, what am I highlighting? That everything is chemical. Why would they like to highlight it? And they are actually doing that now, so it's a little thing. So many sports brands, like I've had friends from US also, she worked for some big sports brand, I don't know, Nike or something. They asked her to make a collection of vegetable dye t-shirts, and then they just kept it randomly. They didn't explain the concept and everything. The thing is, when you say this is good, you're also saying that this is bad. So Fab India did the same thing. They wanted to do, and then they decided not to do it. So I think it's the incentivizing of the companies has to come from government, consumers, everything, people ready to buy, people demanding, because everything is after all supply and demand, right? If consumers today want natural dye, I think companies will only be happy to oblige. What they are trying to do is not educate the customer. Till you don't know, there's no problem. Once you start knowing it, it's a big problem for them. So I tell my even children to do that, go in the shop in this house, do you have natural dyed clothes? Just ask this question. When they hear, they will give the message to someone else. What is this natural dyed cloth? Everybody is looking for it. Someone will tell the bigger one, bigger guy like that. So what I've realized is that consumers is the best place to begin. If we are ready, and if we are ready to also wash with gentle liquid, you know, which is actually good for environment, because surf is and detergents like these are a major pollution causing. Detergents are, you know, very harmful. They're hugely alkali. We are all neutral and acidic beings, plants, our bodies, everything. Alkali is not good for our bodies or anything. So that way, whatever we do in natural dyed clothing, it is actually very safe and healthy for everyone. So the only thing is like it is and all the brands that are actually working towards natural dye, all small brands, all startup brands are my 95% of students. Big brands come because they have a client in US or America who's asking for this, so they want to do it. They don't want to do it otherwise. But all the young people like you, they are all coming and saying, I want to go sustainable, I want to go sustainable. So people are doing a lot of effort to go sustainable, let me tell you, because it's not easy. You don't get the sourcing, how do you dye, so many things. There are very few process houses to do your work also, you know. We are very few of the ones, so how do you function? What we need is encouragement for these people and a marketplace. I mean, I can go on and on say to what the problems really are. There is no way to find marketplace. If there's a marketplace, there's no public there. Then how is that encouragement going to happen? So I think wherever
Every time we have people come to you asking a lot of questions, and we take a quick break now. This was like an intense session, I think.
Absolutely.
Take a quick break and then we come back for a beautiful dance session. We're gonna do that. That'll be outside. Just freshen up, get something to eat, drink maybe. We take 10 minutes. 10 minutes and then we start. And it's a beautiful dance, you don't want to miss it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. What happened? Yeah, just frozen. I don't know what happened. It recorded. It's recorded. It's still not able to.